Ready? Hello and good evening, and welcome to you all from not so sunny London, but happy Christmas to one and all. I have a lovely guest here with me, Simon Danczuk, ex-MP turned broadcaster and investigator,
part-time
author, and a man about town. So here we are for a Christmas broadcast. So cheers to you and cheers to me, and cheers to me if we disagree, as we always say. And welcome to a lovely little pub we've found in the Paddington area of London, and we've been very well looked after here. Absolutely fantastic. We've got a lovely Moretti beer. I don't know what schooner scorer, the man who scores the beers, would say, but I give it an 8.2 out of 10.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, it's quite good.
8.2. He doesn't do round numbers. You have to go up. So we go with a schooner score of 8.2. So welcome to Ginger, Maisie, Expialidocious, MS Explorer, and the others who are here telling us their views. So welcome to you all. Right, okay, so welcome to my guest, Simon, who was an MP in the Labour Party.
Yes, yeah.
No longer involved in the Labour Party. Simon, what put you off the Labour Party?
Oh, goodness, that's a really good question, actually, Matthew. I joined the Labour Party something like over 35 years ago. And I really believed in the Labour Party as it used to be. Yes. Tough on illegal immigration, tough on benefits cheats, all about getting people into work. But this Labour Party, the Starmer Labour Party, not dissimilar to the Ed Miliband Labour Party, has got this North London Labour leftist view of politics, and it just doesn't suit the Labour Party that I joined. And so in just a few words, that's what put me off.
So Labour was an honest working man's party who were about helping the ordinary people, and now you feel Labour has morphed into a middle class party or an elitist party, or where do you feel Keir Starmer's Labour sits?
Very much a middle class party, I think. That's exactly right. And you know, it's good at representing those that are in colleges and university lecturers and people who have a particular worldview like Starmer and Lord Harmer have. But what it doesn't do is reflect what is in the name Labour, working people.
And as an MP, as you were an MP for Rochdale, which was a place which is associated with industry and tradition and community, and a place that changed a lot in the 20th century. Do you feel the people that you represented there are in tune with the modern Labour Party, or they would rather have the old Labour Party?
Well, it's quite a diverse constituency these days. And so the traditional hard-working white community in Rochdale certainly don't identify with the Labour Party that we've got today. And I think they will not be voting Labour come the next general election. And then there's a large Muslim population, Pakistani, Bangladeshi. They might be more supportive because Starmer has been sympathetic to the Palestine cause and everything else. But even they will go to more independent politicians, perhaps to the Green Party, perhaps to the Your Party, Corbyn's new party. So I could imagine, just talking about Rochdale, I could easily imagine Labour losing that seat at the next general election.
Heartland could actually, they talk of the blue wall and the red wall. You think even Rochdale could turn away from Labour?
Yeah, absolutely. And Hayward and Middleton, which is directly next door, that's more white working class. That will definitely not stay Labour, and that's been Labour for a very long time. That's a more traditional Labour red wall seat, and I think that will certainly go to Reform. The other reason that I've moved away from Labour is because of the state of the country. It is in a mess, isn't it? Yes. Illegal immigration is out of control. The
farmers are being harmed.
The farmers are being harmed. Though
the pensioners.
I don't know if you noticed today, they've done a U-turn on the inheritance tax in the last 2 hours.
Well, I haven't seen that, but that is about time. That is a good present for the farmers. The hard-working people of our country deserve to be supported. The Farmer Harmer is a disgrace, and he got it so wrong
Totally.
He is himself a vegetarian, so perhaps he's not supportive of farming. He was vegan before, but the farmers are the backbone of the British society. We are an agricultural nation originally, and this man did not read the room. How do you feel that Keir Starmer has gone from having such a huge majority to being a man who gets swept in to bring change? I had friends in Broadstairs who campaigned for this LGBTQ plus lady called Polly Billington, and they said she's going to change everything. She's going to be great, and this is going to be a fresh hope for the future. People are not happy with this man. Why are they not happy, particularly with him? What is it about him? Is he too much of a Peter Mandelson PR-led operation, or is he just stupid?
He's not a leader. He has no vision. He's a very poor communicator. He's not telling the British people what they want. He's not delivering. He's not listening either. So he's not a leader. He's not listening, and he can't communicate. I mean, he is a disaster. And I suspect there's many Labour MPs would say that today. You know, if you study politics as I do, then you will see that, I mean, he's failing. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had in this country.
Yes.
And so I'm not surprised.
So quickly.
Oh, yeah, so quickly, absolutely. But the other alarming factor is that, you know, they were in opposition for 14 years. You would have thought they'd have had time to get a plan together that they could have implemented.
You know, Rachel from accounts should have got her accounts in order. Instead, she just causes chaos.
Total chaos.
Absolutely terrible. It's an absolutely bizarre state of affairs to lose your mandate so quickly.
Yes.
When you have such a huge majority. And I believe today on your Twitter, you were sharing odds for betting on when the next election would be. When do you predict the next election?
Yeah, I could imagine a scenario where we go to the country again in a general election in 2027. And let me just describe the scenario.
Yes.
I'm sure that Starmer will be replaced in 2026. Labour MPs they're already furious about the fact that now he's reversed. On one level, they will welcome the inheritance tax for farmers being reversed, but they've gone through all the agony for the last 6 months
for nothing.
12 months for nothing. And now they were marched up the hill to vote for it, and now they're being told to march back down the hill. So they will be even more furious in terms of Starmer's leadership. I can't see Labour MPs keeping him there for very long. They know if they go into the next general election with Starmer, a good proportion of them will lose their seats. So what will happen? It's going to be disastrous elections in May for Labour, local elections,
well, the
Scotland,
local elections, if
Wales.
we even get any of these,
There's still going to be some. It's going to be disastrous. He will be out. They'll replace him with Wes Streeting or Shabana Mahmood or whoever else. But the pressure, so much pressure will be on that new Prime Minister because although he has a big majority of seats, the support has been very shallow. This isn't like Boris Johnson or Tony Blair in '97. Loads of people stayed at home in the 2024 general election. So actually, a very small proportion of people voted Labour. Yes. And so it's a very shallow majority.
Corbyn had a bigger percentage than Keir Starmer actually managed to get, but obviously Keir Starmer managed through our system. And is our system the wrong system? Do we need to change the voting system?
I think that's really interesting. I've always been in favour of first past the post, and we've got these results that we have. Should be electoral reform. I'm still probably in favour of first past the post. What the good news is that they've rebalanced the constituencies in terms of size of constituencies, number of electors, and the Conservatives did that, and I think it was the right thing to do. So they're more balanced. You know,
we're dealing with a different age. We had a system that was 80,000. Was it 80,000 people in the constituency?
It could be more in some, and 50 in others.
Yeah,
I mean,
but how many people, when you were an MP, how many of your constituents actually bothered to contact you and write to you individually? You know, if you had a bigger constituency with the modern communication technology, you could have fewer MPs, pay people better, and get better MPs.
There is an argument for that as to why we have 650 MPs. Yes. It is a large number. In terms of Rochdale, I had a very busy constituency, not least because of the deprivation. I had 76,000 electors. It was before the boundary changes, so it was quite a large in terms of numbers, and people were very forthright in terms of getting in touch with their MP. But could there be more reform? I think that is a good question.
And could technology be used better in politics?
And I think
in a constituency level.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it is being adapted and adopted all the time. You know, including in Parliament. You know, whether you move to electronic voting and things. I mean, that's a whole different discussion.
So coming back to Keir Starmer. What do you think's the worst thing about Keir Starmer? You've been very vocal on Twitter about Peter Mandelson and how he has failed to remove Peter Mandelson from the House of Lords. Peter Mandelson, after all, is a disgraced individual who has been disgraced on multiple occasions. What particularly resonates with you that you continue daily to talk about Peter Mandelson when Peter Mandelson would probably rather you just shut up?
Yeah, I'm sure he would. He probably doesn't care what I say, but I won't shut up. That's for sure, because I just do not think it's right that we have somebody in the House of Lords who's helping make the laws of this country, who was
someone who was on the Privy Council.
Yes, absolutely, and was so close to a paedophile. After the fact that he'd been prosecuted.
Called the paedophile his bestie.
Yeah, his best friend. He's very
pictured with him in his dressing gown.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet to the point where he's so close to Epstein that he has to lose his job for a third time. Mandelson has to lose a public appointment.
So he lost his jobs in the House of Commons. He lost his jobs in Europe. He lost his jobs in America. Yeah, he loses. You know, this is a man who is like the cat with 19 lives.
And yet Starmer thinks he's still good enough to sit as a Labour Lord.
Yes.
He shouldn't even be in the House of Lords.
No.
And why aren't Labour politicians or all politicians calling for Mandelson to be ousted from the House of Lords?
We have so many people calling for Michelle Mone, quite correctly, to be stripped of her title. Yeah. You know, the bra queen needs throwing out of the House of Lords. And I think that Mandelson needs throwing out of the House of Lords also. But Mandelson, look at the way he has been able to reinvent himself again and again, and Starmer refuses to answer any questions. I think you are very right to call this out, and I think more people should be doing the same. I think there is so much enthusiasm for getting rid of Michelle Mone. Why is there not the same enthusiasm within the Labour Party for getting rid of?
There should be a campaign to get rid of him, no doubt about it. And you're asking, what don't I like about Starmer? In many respects, he comes across as a stooge, as though he's being put up to this stuff and he can't perform very well. You know, it is as though he's fulfilling somebody's agenda, like Mandelson's agenda or this globalist agenda. And that's one of the things I don't like about him. He has no vision and he has no investment in what he's talking about.
As somebody who expected him, though I didn't like the man, to be intelligent, given he was a trained barrister, you know, he'd run the CBS, all of those things. I find it highly disappointing that this man isn't intelligent enough to be able to read the room on simple issues. You know, what did you think of Starmer taking the glasses from Lord Ali and all the rest of it, staying in his apartment? What's that all about?
One of the biggest criticisms of Starmer, not just from me, but from the general public, is the hypocrisy, isn't it? So for years we listened to him criticising Boris Johnson and others for taking...
Rishi Sunak, the private jets, all the rest of it.
Yeah. And these guys, Labour, have been the worst.
Yes, we've got Angela, we've got Raving Rayner, who, you know, a second home woman. Okay, nothing wrong with having a second home. If you can afford a second home, it's good for the economy in many ways. People having homes they can rent out, whatever they want to do with them. But the Labour people, they tried to say all of the Conservatives that did this were wrong.
Yeah.
So Where did Labour lose its communications success that it had, admittedly, under Mandelson? And Mandelson, they had a very smooth operating machine. They were clever. When was that lost? Was that under Gordon Brown, or was that subsequent?
Yeah.
As an MP who was there at that time.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, my view is that things started going wrong for Labour when Ed Miliband took over. I think David would have done a better job. I wouldn't have agreed with David Miliband on everything, but I think he would have done a much better job than Ed. But Ed Miliband became Labour leader in 2010.
Yes.
I just arrived in the House of Commons. It couldn't have been worse for me. You got this North London Labour guy,
Yes.
Ed Miliband, as leader. I don't really connect with him. He is soft left. And then if it didn't get worse, we ended up with Jeremy Corbyn, again, North London Labour, even more left wing. And then we've ended up with Starmer again. So that's where, I mean, throughout that period,
And how
it's
did
really
you feel about
deteriorated.
Jeremy Corbyn as a leader?
Well, the Financial Times described me as Jeremy Corbyn's fiercest internal critic.
Right.
So I used to write on a regular basis for the Mail on Sunday criticising Jeremy Corbyn. It's something I'm very proud of, because it would have been over my dead body that we'd have ended up with Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister. I mean, that is just a step too
area.
far. Yeah, totally. I mean, that would have been ludicrous.
Now, we met recently with Piers Corbyn.
We did
and
indeed.
Piers Corbyn certainly is a man who also is controversial. But Piers Corbyn, in my view, I was very shocked to find was quite sensible when it came to digital ID. What do you think about Keir Starmer's digital ID plans?
I think it's dead in the water. I don't think it's going to get anywhere. Anything now. I mean, this is how much of a difficult position this government is in. Nothing can really happen. We were talking about the inheritance tax reversal, the winter fuel payments reversal, lots of things being reversed. They can't benefits reversals.
Yes.
They can't implement very much. He has the kiss of death when it comes to implementation, does Starmer. He'll between now and May, he'll get very little through. Because if a sizable proportion of the Parliamentary Labour Party, Labour MPs, are vocal and against it, then it won't happen. And the same applies to digital ID.
Well, there we go. We've done a little tour of politics. I think we'll go on to something a little bit more ridiculous, still connected to politics. Michael Gove, obviously, after leaving government, became the editor of The Spectator, or the editor, I think.
Yes.
And as you can see,
the Christmas edition.
Christmas edition, £8.95 for your copy, which is, I remember when a magazine was £2.50, I was quite shocked to see it was £8.95.
Nearly 10 quid.
They decided to feature a lady called Bonnie Blue. They gave her a whole page. Now, you've read a little bit of the Bonnie Blue feature. Now, to the viewers who don't know, probably the international viewers, there are many of you, Bonnie Blue is a young lady in her 20s who goes on a thing called OnlyFans. She does all sorts of sexual escapades and sells her antics to the public to watch. And the bizarreness of a magazine established in 1828 to give Bonnie Blue and her bang bus, as she calls it, space. What do you think of Bonnie Blue being given space in The Spectator?
Well, a couple of qualifications. First, I'm not an expert on porn stars. I have to make that quite clear. And secondly, I'm not a common reader of The Spectator.
Right.
But nevertheless, I still have an
You're
opinion.
more of a New Statesman man?
I do read the New Statesman, actually. There's some of the briefings that sent out electronically, actually. But I do have a view. I think it's Michael Gove, coming in as editor, trying to rejuvenate the magazine, I guess. Trying to have people in there that are more relevant to a younger audience, perhaps.
Bonnie Blue, for example, said Reform has sensible positions on immigration and inheritance tax, so I stand with Nigel Farage. However, you might not like this as much. Everyone is opinionated about Meghan, but it's nice that they've been able to distance themselves. Andrew seems a bit of a lad. I should give him a fast pass to my next event. That would keep him out of trouble.
Oh, goodness me.
There we go. So
Yeah.
we've got Bonnie Blue's view of the world.
But she has come out supporting reform, hasn't she? Yeah.
Well, I would say she did also add that she didn't know much about politics, basically. I'm not knowledgeable about politics, but I do know the UK is very messed up. So I think she does have some views that resonate with members of the public, or whoever wrote that article.
And she's quite popular with a certain section of the society.
But just been banned
population.
from OnlyFans. So
Oh, really?
where
Oh,
she
right.
goes next, whoever Bonnie Blue will continue into 2026. Anyway, we have lots of people leaving comments here. Josh P asks, what about Jenny Lebedev, the owner of the Evening Standard, that is, I will add, should he be thrown out of the House of Lords? He never turns up to vote.
Well, I
never speaks.
I don't know very much about the guy. But I do think there should be some reform of the House of Lords. They are either active politicians doing a good job, or they're not. And so I don't think we should revise it in terms of age, which there has been talk of, not being able to go beyond 80.
Yes.
You meet some 80-year-olds, 81-year-olds who are exceptionally sharper than some 50-year-olds.
There are some amazing 90-year-olds who are
Totally.
still, out there
Totally.
working.
And have a great contribution to make. So it shouldn't be based on age, but perhaps one qualification at least is their ability to attend, And they could always be perhaps a ceremonial lord, they could have the title, but
Yes.
not be allowed to be active in the chamber, not counted as one of the voting people.
But what about people who just don't bother to turn up?
Yeah, no, I
Like
think that's...
Lebedev never turns up.
They shouldn't be allowed to be in the Lords.
Yes, I totally
Perhaps he
agree
could
with you.
keep the title, but he shouldn't be in the Lords. Do you see what I mean?
Well, he's not serving any purpose
No,
there.
not whatsoever.
He doesn't add anything to the legislature.
No.
He's a total waste of space in that sense.
Yes,
And
he does need reform, no doubt about that.
But I think Keir Starmer's system of reforming it is questionable. What's your view on his system?
Well, currently, he talked about radical reform, making it an elected chamber, which actually I'm against. I used to be in favour, but for many years I've been against it, especially since I became an MP. Because when I became an MP, I saw the value of having an unelected chamber. Once it's elected, it's challenging the sovereignty of the House of Commons, and that's a problem. Who's in charge? Is it the Commons or is it the Lords? Both are elected, and that is an issue. And we have a British way of doing things. Just because other countries have elected second chambers, it doesn't mean we have to have one. It certainly needs shrinking. Starmer's currently packing the place with lots more lords. Yes. I don't think that's a solution at all.
So the latest one who lied about her position,
absolutely.
what do you think of the lady who lied?
I think she has to, I think it's Baroness Lim, I think.
Yes.
I think she should have to give up the position. In any role where you were appointed on a CV that said you had a doctorate, and she doesn't, she isn't a PhD, she hasn't got a PhD, and she hasn't got a master's. Why would you lie about it is one question. Two, you shouldn't have liars like that making the laws in this country.
Would it not also indicate that Keir Starmer is not operating a proper vetting process as he did with Mandelson? Why are people not checking on the suitability of the people he is appointing? Why does his government seem to be messing this up quicker than any other government we've seen in a very long time? People criticize Johnson and all the rest of them for appointing cronies. Why is he getting away with this cronyism in such a way?
Starmer's judgment has been appalling on a whole raft of
Especially
issues.
Mandelson.
You've got Mandelson, you've got this Baroness Lim,
Yes.
you've got Sue Gray.
Lord Ali, it's Sue
Lord
Gray,
Gray,
yes.
yeah, absolutely.
And Grade, my friend from the Mail, he did a lot of investigations over the summer into Grade's past in Northern Ireland, and
Yes.
there's a lot of things out there. Obviously, a lot of it's hidden from the public, but this Grade woman had a very questionable past with a lot of very questionable people. she is not fit to be in any high office.
No, and because she failed as his chief of staff in the first 6 months of government, she's now in the House of Lords.
Yes,
I mean,
elevate the failure.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely shocking and wrong.
Starmer's judgment is
what
very
on
poor.
earth is wrong with the judgment in this country of this terrible, terrible, rotten government? So we've done a bit of that. We've done a bit of Bonnie Blue. So our next little topic, let's have a chat about something you shared for me. I tweeted about Ghislaine Maxwell being in Downing Street. So we continue politics in a way. 2002, Ghislaine Maxwell was photographed in Downing Street. In the photograph, on a date unknown because all the files are released without any kind of information backing them up, is Ghislaine with her sort of posing on a doorstep. Who is taking the photograph? We don't know. It could possibly be Jeffrey Epstein. But in all communications, the Peter Mandelson, who bizarrely said that Tony Blair as Prime Minister should meet Jeffrey Epstein, a man who was very rich, and he was stable and safe. What are your thoughts on that photograph? What do you think about, Ghislaine being allowed into Downing Street? Ghislaine's father, obviously by then, was already a disgraced individual who had stolen 500 million from pensioners. The Labour Party is meant to be the party of the people. Why was the Prime Minister inviting in this rotten woman, the rotten daughter, in 2002? That is over 10 years after her rotten father, the pension pot plunderer, had died. What do you think of that, the moral compass of Tony Blair's government in doing that?
I think that's a big mistake, isn't it? Surely it's something that they must now regret. I think the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein scandal is something we're only just learning. We're at the tip of the iceberg, I think. I think there's so much more about who they knew, what influence they had, who they blackmailed to a good extent. And as much about Britain, many of us in Britain see it as a US issue.
Yes, well,
but I think it's a British issue.
They talk about the victims in New Mexico, the victims in the British Virgin Islands. They talk about the victims, in the other places they went to visit. They don't talk about what went on. For example, my friend knew about what went on in South Africa. And obviously there were things going on in England. As I have repeatedly said before, in the 1990s, a lady I knew, her home in South Kensington was used for surveillance of Ghislaine's Stanhope Mews East property, which is a very curious place we should go and have a look at. Viewers, if you want to have a look at something bizarre, they have signs outside, no photographs allowed here. They are very upset. They don't want to have any association with this. And you can't blame them. But I have repeatedly asked the Metropolitan Police, why did they not investigate what went on with Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with the Lease family in the 1980s, who lived at South Wraxall Manor in the Cotswolds? Why have they not looked into the perhaps 1970s involvement with a man called Walk, who he worked with at Bear Stearns, who references how they worked together on the Maxwell accounts? The Maxwell-Epstein narrative runs deep into the British country, and the Met Police have said they refuse to investigate. Now, Simon, what reason do you think the Metropolitan Police have not to bother looking into these things? Why are they choosing to keep everything about Andrew and Ghislaine in London quiet? Why are they doing this?
Well, I suspect that they will want a good proportion of evidence before they do.
Fair enough.
But if more information comes out from Washington, as it is doing almost on a daily basis, then I suspect that a case will quickly start being built.
So you think in 2026 there could be a UK case regarding perhaps Ghislaine? Because obviously it's a bit late for Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I think that's really interesting, and it points to this point, something you tweeted about earlier today, which just came out from the Daily Telegraph, which is this email exchange between Maxwell and Prince Andrew at the time, where he mentions, I mean, you might want to read it out, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay, well, I could read that. I will quickly read out. There is an email from someone called the Invisible Man, who signs off as A.
Who we clearly know is Prince Andrew.
Who clearly the Telegraph have identified to be Prince Andrew. Now, Prince Andrew may or may not choose to deny this at a later date. I am up here at Balmoral summer camp for the royal family. Now, the first line is a little bit curious because it's for the royal family. He is part of the royal family, so the communication is bad. But remember, Epstein was very bad at communicating too. These people are not very good at communicating, so you give them a bit of a pass in their strange language. But anyway, he blabbers on about his children, and it's all a bit hard time. And then he asks Ghislaine Maxwell, "Have you found me some new inappropriate friends?" I don't think an email could be clearer than that in what it's wanting. What would you take inappropriate friends to mean?
Well, from what we know, I mean, the allegations against Prince Andrew are that he had relations with some very young women, didn't he?
Yes.
Now, where we draw the line in terms of young women, inappropriate friends clearly suggests to me, and I've been around the world a bit. You know, I've been around a bit.
We all meet different people,
yeah.
And we see different things, and some people behave better than others.
Absolutely, yeah. And it seems to me that inappropriate friends means young women. Now, the key issue is where the line is drawn: 16, 17, 18, 19. Or under. Now, I suspect it isn't under, but I could be wrong, you know. But it's clearly young women. That's what I think inappropriate friend, what he means by inappropriate friends.
And he wants some fun with people before having to put his nose to the grindstone for the fall.
Well, I mean, Prince Andrew's never done a hard day's work in his life, so putting his nose to the grindstone. And he adds,
any ideas gratefully received.
Yeah,
you couldn't invent a more stupid buffoon than Randy Andy. I think he'd be better off going back to his Pizza Express, wouldn't he, for a sloppy Giuseppe or something?
Well,
it might do less harm if he did such a thing.
He's in a very difficult position. It's interesting how he tried to hold on for so long. I'm surprised he held on for so long, actually, because this has just come out. There's more and more coming out. And what we saw on the front of the Sun newspaper today is the exclusive that he's having his shotgun license
removed. So having your shotgun license removed is something that doesn't happen without good reason. Now, good reasons could be mental instability, that you are a risk to others, or that you haven't kept your weaponry in a good way. For example, you know, my old friend James Hewitt didn't keep his guns in the cabinet correctly, and they took his guns away. Quite correct. You can't just leave guns lying around the place because anyone could get their hands on them. In his case, could it be possibly to do with his mental health, that he was considered a risk of something, given his mental state after losing his titles, losing his royal lodge? What do you think, Simon?
Yeah, I suspect it is around his mental health. And importantly, we know from numerous sources that he is an exceptionally grumpy,
arrogant, and angry man.
Yes. And so various former staff have said, listen, there's no talking to him. He would ignore it, swear at you, and all the rest of it. So the police doing this gives the staff a pass to be able to say, listen, Andrew, we have to remove these guns.
Yeah, he would even, if someone was wearing a polyester tie, he wanted them out of the building or whatever. Anything he didn't like the look of had to be removed.
Goodness.
You know, he is an angry man who is known for driving his car at things and upsetting the tourists. Anyone who is in his way. But could this be perhaps that a doctor has perhaps diagnosed something and they have therefore had to act?
That's really interesting, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, he couldn't be in a worse position psychologically, could he? After all, the public shaming that he's
And
had.
obviously Princess Anne said she felt worry for him.
Right, I didn't even know that,
Yes.
but that is interesting, yeah.
So what state of, the state of him, who should we actually really feel sorry for here? Should we feel sorry for the victims who have been treated appallingly by the likes of Brian Basham, Jay Beecher, all of these people, or is it now time to give Andrew a bit of a pass and let him be left away to go away? Or are the latest photographs just yet further proof of why this man needs to be finally properly dealt with in a reasonable manner by a justice system?
No pass for Andrew from me. You'll recall I built a strong record on campaigning for survivors of child abuse.
Yep.
My sympathies are with those survivors. And we have to conclude, I believe, that Prince Andrew with Maxwell, with Epstein, were closely associated with, and now I'm not saying Prince Andrew's committed any abuse, but this is a network of people who've been abusing young girls, young women.
Yes.
Our sympathy should lie with them. I have no sympathy with Prince Andrew. The entitlement, that's the word that's always used to describe Prince Andrew and other members of the royal family, I have to say. He doesn't get a pass from me. I mean, if he's in a bad state, then yeah, I have sympathy. But goodness me, the misery that's been caused to the victims.
You make your bed and you lie in it. And
absolutely.
He chose to go down this route, and that is that with rights come responsibilities, and with actions come consequences. With Andrew, Randy Andy chose his path of hanging around with rotten wrong'uns like not just Epstein, but also Peter Nygaard, a man who's also in jail. He has been with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was allegedly his girlfriend. With the position he was in, we spoke the other day with another friend of ours, didn't we, who talks about how Andrew actually had all the advisors in the world. So why would a man with all these advisors go against his advisors and go and hang around with these bad wrongs?
The word you used earlier is arrogance.
Yes.
As well as the advisors, he would have security, military, and policing personnel telling him who he should and shouldn't go to.
Well, I don't know if you ever met him, but I get the occasional tweet from, I've never met the man either, but a man called Paul Page, who was a security guard. And they all talk, people like him, they all talk of, how he just ignored the advice that was given. Obviously, you and I have not experienced witnessing his arrogant behavior and with regard to the advice, but surely there were people above who should have counseled this man, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I think they did. And I think he took it upon himself to ignore the advice. And the bigger picture here is that you ask the British people about the royal family, they will often say, we like the royal family, they're very supportive of the royal family, but at the same time, they want it to be modified and shrunk somewhat.
Yes.
And if you were going to shrink it, you'd certainly get rid of Prince Andrew, you'd certainly get rid of Harry and Meghan. If you want to make it more focused, then get rid of some of these hangers-on.
So we'll turn over to Harry and Meghan. Before we do, I'll just say good evening to Cult Television, my dear friend who is flying off on Christmas Eve to Canada. And thank you for watching, because we won't see you for a long time, but thank you for all your help with our programs this year.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed. We will say Merry Christmas on this channel. We're not into all the
woke nonsense.
So that's okay.
Winter holidays.
Well, before we get to Meghan and Harry, who are terribly woke and pathetic, What's your view on the woke, Simon?
Well, I think we're having a bit of a fight back in terms of tackling the woke agenda, in terms of the transgender stuff, which has gone far too far. You know, we're all quite relaxed about people men dressing up as women. You know,
Well,
it was never an issue for many
If you
years.
want to be something, if you want to identify as a tree, I would say you should identify as a tree. It just means I don't have to believe that you are a tree.
Exactly right.
That's how I've always said it. You know, I met a lady in Broadstairs who said to me, I am a dragon. And she caught me out because she responded by, I said, well, are you a male or a female dragon? She said, dragons are mythical, so I can be either. So she actually did win. But in the majority of these people's cases, isn't it ridiculous that we have to put up with this nonsense and that the WI has to start making rules about things? And
it's a total nonsense. And whilst we can laugh about some of it, in some cases it's very serious, where you've got men who like to dress up as women in female spaces, in women's changing rooms, in women's sport. This is just not acceptable. I think the positive is, especially for 2026, I think we're now going in the opposite direction. We've dealt with that. The whole puberty blocker thing.
It's like Piers Morgan, woke is dead.
I think we're getting there, slowly but surely. I think we're getting there. And it's not just about the transgender issue. It's about other issues as well. Yes. You know, this idea, I think this might be the final Christmas where, on my son's school's website, it talks about the holidays throughout the year, and it calls them the winter holidays. It's the Christmas holidays.
It's Christmas, and we are a Christian country.
Christmas trees, not winter or festive trees.
And we welcome everybody else, but we have to have...
It's a Christian country,
We have to respect the rights of what we are. King Charles should be the defender of the faith, in my view, but I'm not a religious person. But I would say... our religion in this country is, we have an established church, and that church is there for that reason.
Absolutely. Let's keep fighting for that.
Yes, so we keep fighting against the woke.
Yeah.
So moving along, we won't talk about them too much because I don't think they'd probably interest you a lot. But what about Harry and Meghan? My viewers do love to hate Harry and Meghan and the Sussex Squaddies. What do you think of Harry and Meghan and their latest moves with their Archwell charity, or whatever they want to call it? They've renamed it Philanthropies. Do you think that they should not also go out with the woke?
I think they should be cut off. I have no sympathy with their situation whatsoever. They want to have all the airs and graces of being a member of the royal family, but they don't want to have to make the full commitment and abide by all the rules of what is expected of them by the British people. Well, you can't have it both ways. I suspect that this, in my view, is a majority view in Britain, and I genuinely believe it. They're just fighting to get the security back, police security, for when they visit the UK. I suspect that, from what I hear, because I follow politics more closely than I do the royal family, is that I suspect that the Home Office is going to cave into that, i.e. Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, is going to give into that to allow him to come back so that he's more likely to meet his father, King Charles. But I don't believe it's acceptable, and I don't think we should be paying for it. I don't think we should have...
Well, they went off for a worldwide privacy tour. And,
exactly.
They've had their Netflix.
And they shouldn't have the titles. I think all that needs to be stopped. In terms of their charity work, because I do know that you know more about these things. It was in the Mail on Sunday that the visits to Nigeria and elsewhere were paid by the charity. Is that right?
So they use this for their own purposes of getting themselves awards, and this charity should be used surely for charity. Charity should not begin at home for taking for yourself, and those charities have been vehicles for them to do things, in which it should be about the causes that they want to support. They should be humanitarian, if that's what they wish to be.
But some of the money's been used to do sort of royal tours, almost. Is
royal
that right?
tours, and paying for all these staff that look after their own affairs. It's a rotten state of
It's not helping poor people or people in developing countries.
It helps Meghan get herself on the telly box, doesn't it?
Really? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? But is it a British charity or an American charity?
It's all run out of America because there's tax deductibles and it suits them very well.
But that's what it's about. I mean, it's totally inappropriate in many respects.
Yes, and he, as the son of the king, should be behaving in a little more of a dignified manner, in my view. I don't know. Do you really feel in 2026 the public will want to see more of Harry or less?
Oh, I suspect that some of us enjoy the drama around what's going on because, on a different scale and level, it is.
So you mean the Daily Mail
and the readership?
Yes.
But in some respects, the drama that's going on is like, on a different scale, is what goes on in all families. Father and son falling out, etc., etc. But you've got Prince Andrew, you've got Prince Harry, both in there with their spouses and ex-spouses, just causing a problem for the royal family. A period, one would hope, in 2026 for a period of calm in the royal family. But that doesn't involve bringing Harry back into the royal family here in Britain. That's my view.
And moving along, you've written a book about Dolphin Square. Perhaps you might like to tell some of the audience about Dolphin Square and what you know about what went on there and whether anything that went on there will be properly ever investigated.
It's a big story, but absolutely. So my first book was Smile for the Camera, The Double Life of Cyril Smith, who was a predecessor of mine in Rochdale, Liberal Democrat, and a paedophile. I outed him as a paedophile in 2012. That was the first book. It did very well, I think very important book revealing a lot of information.
Revealing a monster.
Revealing a monster, The second book was Scandal at Dolphin Square, A Notorious History. And it's it's a true story. It covers about 100 different scandals from when the place was built. This is a block of flats, private block of flats in Pimlico, Westminster, 15, 18 minutes walk from Parliament. You had lots of different people living there, spies, celebrities, actors,
Princess
actresses.
Anne briefly.
Princess Anne lived there for a time, absolutely. Oswald Mosley in the 1930s, leader of the fascists. Harold Wilson lived there for a short time.
So it was both Conservative and Labour.
Totally mixed. And the management deliberately worked at getting a political balance in terms of...
Really?
And there's still politicians live there. I lived there for a number of years. That's how I came to write the book. Some of the more fun stories are around Sid James and Barbara Windsor had an affair there, outed there. One of my favourites is Lord Sewell, who in 2015, it was found, entertained prostitutes at his flat there. He was a very influential Labour lord. He was the architect of Scottish devolution, but he had a penchant for prostitutes, some of whom went to the Sun newspaper, who helpfully wired them up with microphones and video cameras. And so they went in there one night, and this is still online. You can find this information and video if you want to. And so it's recorded of Lord Sewell, this is 2015, so it's not that long ago, sniffing cocaine off one of the prostitutes' breasts. He sat there in a...
As you do.
As you do. He sat there in an orange bra and a black leather jacket. And etc. But to his credit, a real gentleman is observed turning the photo of his wife over on the mantelpiece.
How kind of him.
Yeah, so that she's not observing what's going on.
The antics of her rotten husband's bad behaviour.
To my shock, it was against the tenancy agreement that he'd signed, so he was thrown out of...
so he was a rarely punished person,
and he was thrown out of the House of Lords. So that's one of my favourite stories. But there's some darker stories, but we deal with the whole issue around whether there was child abuse there. I mean, there clearly was, but not around. Nick, who was
the man called Nick, who was
made false allegations,
a fake accuser,
who went to prison for lying, and
he was, and he tried to flee the country, and he did flee the country.
So we deal
and
with
he
all
did
that.
a lot of damage, I would say,
Yeah.
to other victims.
Yes.
And that is what's caused a lot of the conspiracy that you get on the internet. How do you feel about these conspiracies on the internet, about all of these stories? So, with Epstein, there's a conspiracy currently about a man who they claim to be Jeffrey Epstein, who's living in Israel. There's Jonathan Ephron.
Really?
And, with the likes of this Nick and these kind of people, these stories do tend to spin out of control, don't they?
And Nick's story did spin out of control. I mean, a little part of that, which might be of interest, is that when I was an MP and I was campaigning around Cyril Smith being an abuser, etc., and calling out that sort of behaviour, the Nick character got in touch with my office, and somebody in my team spoke to him, and the person in my team didn't believe that he had been abused, that he was genuine.
Yes.
So we completely ignored him. Now, Tom Watson took up Nick's case.
Yes.
And that's why it got so much of an airing.
And Tom Watson, how do you feel about what Tom
Well,
Watson
he's in the Lords now.
Yes.
It's interesting that all these characters that we talk about, whether they've done right or wrong,
Yes.
end up in the Lords.
elevated to a higher level, like Michelle Mone.
Yeah, it's
The
fascinating.
other side, and Karen and Brady.
Yeah, it's not a party political
No.
issue. No, absolutely. So he called it wrong in terms of Nick. I mean, surely he admits that now. And he's done that issue a disservice. So that's how I feel about Tom. But yeah, we deal with all this in the book, Scandal at Dolphin Square. Well worth the read, in my opinion, I would say that. But yeah, there's some fun stuff, some serious stuff. It's a real mix of what's going on there.
That was books from the past. And you've got projects for the future, which you don't want to talk about.
I can't talk
yet.
too much about, but we've
You
just
have-
signed a deal. Yeah, so we're just working on. Myself and Dan Smith, who I wrote Dolphin Square book about with. We're working on a third book. And we've just signed a deal around a documentary. I can't say too much,
Yes.
but
So you have another project coming along.
Absolutely.
Which is fascinating. And right, well, we have dealt with most things other than Greta Thunberg.
Oh, that's
She's
very
been arrested today.
recent, yeah.
What do you think of Grim Greta, as I call her?
She's a fascinating character. I wonder whether she has issues, actually. I mean,
Well, I
psychological
think she has
challenging
mental
issues.
health issues.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And I think she's been arrested today in London for
Yes.
promoting Palestine Action.
With a placard,
Yeah,
and other
absolutely.
people through the offending paint and all the rest. But
I think she's beyond. I think she's more than a nuisance. I think this should, deal with her seriously. I think she should lose visa rights
yes,
to come into this
okay,
country.
A man I knew from America, Michael Savage, the Savage Nation, a shock jock, as he was always referred to. He was banned from Britain as an unsuitable person. I know that Sean Atwood, who I know, he was going to do a tour with a man called Michael Franzese, who was involved with Andrew Tate, who was a mobster as well, and he was banned as being an unsuitable person. Why do we always ban these right-wing figures? Why don't we ban these left-wing figures too? The left-wing ones seem to get a pass. Do you believe that to be the case? Or?
I think it probably is the case, because the people in positions of power, judges and others, do follow a more left-wing agenda. That's my view. I mean, she's perfect to be banned from this country. She's just a nuisance. I mean, why would we want her in the country, wasting police time?
This is a woman who claims to be campaigning about the environment, yet she flies around the world and gets herself here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, her carbon footprint is bloody ridiculous.
Oh, totally.
So I think that Greta Thunberg should be banned for Christmas. If you want rid of anything, let's get rid of Greta. What do you think? Audience, do you like Greta Thunberg or not? We'll see what they have to say.
Absolutely.
They may come back with some views, but why does even King Charles entertain her? It's shocking that the king would even waste time with such a pointless little brat.
I have to be quite honest. I think, 2 points. One, he's not as popular as his mother,
Yes.
that's for sure. And two, I think there are many people in the country who are quietly looking forward to Prince William taking on responsibility
Yes.
for leading the monarchy.
Well, Enigma Blue says King Charles the Weak. There we go. We get that response on that one. So, well, we thank you very much for your interview with us. And now we're going to briefly do a quiz. You can perhaps join in my quiz.
I'm terrible at
Christmas
quizzes, but go on, keep going.
And Angelo here is going to take notes of the quiz. Keep score, because we have to have a scorekeeper. And I know you all love a quiz. So we have plenty of quizzes in my book here. And I haven't given you a quiz. See, TMTB, yeah, quiz. Ione says, I don't like Greta, but I will support her in this endeavor. So we have Greta fans in the audience too. So we're not all anti-grim Greta, as I would call them. Well, that's the good thing about democracy. We love to have people on this channel of differing views. We do not mind, as the late Queen would say, recollections may vary of what they've actually done. But there we go. So we'll get our first question. And my computer is being moved. Anyway, I'll say cheers. Thank you very much.
And all the best for 2026.
And Merry Christmas from myself and Simon and Angelo, who is in the background. He's waving, he's keeping very quiet. But we will begin this quiz with the first question. Which part of Kent, geographically, are men of Kent from? Is it the east or the west? Which part? I'm giving you a clue there. Obviously, Kent is bounded on three sides by the sea, and they have rivalry. Well, the first person to get the answer, and Angelo needs to write it down, is Enigma Blue, 1 point, with the east. They're not like the landlocked west, so they're the men of Kent.
I never knew that.
There we go. I didn't know much about the men of Kent. I don't know where I found this question, but I did. Okay. Inigo had 5 apples and gave 2 to Victoria. How many apples does Inigo have now?
Surely 3, isn't it?
Well, I guess Simon gets the point. It is 3. He was the quickest. Enigma Blue said 2, but Ginger Maisie asked if the men of Kent were like the Essex boys. Now, did you know about that case?
That's hopeful, I think.
I think that would be something the men of Kent would not want to be compared to, I don't think. But we won't go down the rabbit hole of my knowledge on the case of the Essex boys murdered in the Range Rovers tonight. We might save that for another day. Okay, which author and playwright once observed, scandal is gossip made tedious by morality?
It's not Oscar Wilde, is it? No?
Well, our audience member, or our guest, gets the first point, second point with Oscar Wilde, of course. That was in Lady Windermere. Now,
I have seen that.
We may have to slow you down a bit to give other people a chance.
Yeah.
Because they do want to. They do need it. But right, we had wrong answers from Jane Hennessy in the form of Jane Austen and TMTB, who's normally good at quizzes, with Tennessee Williams. The best known being Ben Nevis. How many Munros or mountains over 3,000 feet are there in Scotland as of 2025? I say as of 2025 because the number does vary depending on who you consult. But how many Munros, as they're called, the mountains over 3,000 feet are there? Now, Jane Hennessy says 300, Enigma Blue 560. Stevie D, however, gets it completely correct. Stevie D gets 282.
I never knew that. So,
named after Sir Hugh Munro, who produced the first list in 1891. He was known for what was called Munro bagging. So you would have to, if you could climb all 281, you were a Munro bagger. There we go. So that's a bit of useless information for you. What in English does bon voyage mean? Bon voyage. What does bon voyage mean?
Shall I give a guess?
You can give a guess.
Safe travels, something like that?
You're nearly there, yes. It doesn't mean good riddance, as Ione says. I'll give it to TMTV, who says good voyage. Or good
voyage.
journey.
Yeah, good journey. Yeah.
Or have a nice trip. But you were very much there. But we will allow that one to go to that.
Yeah.
Which type of meat is never on the menu at Lord's cricket ground?
Oh, I don't know that.
Which type of meat will they never serve at Lord's?
That's an interesting one.
It is not lamb.
I've never been to Lord's cricket ground. Have you been?
I have, but not to
Eat.
not to a game. I have been to eat, but
Oh.
never for a game. I've been in the evening for things. It's not lamb and it's not pork. What kind of thing wouldn't you do in cricket then? That might be a clue. It's not beef. They serve all of that. But Stevie D 855 gets it. Of course, it's a duck. Cricketing parlance for being dismissed without scoring.
So they don't eat it.
So they don't eat duck. But Ben Stokes refuses to eat plum chicken because he thinks it's a plum LBW. There we go. So if you're into cricket, because many of our audience are, I'm not particularly me, but okay, then you'd know this. So you don't get duck at Lord's. I thought that was quite a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Which German once said, blind belief is the greatest enemy of truth? Blind belief is the greatest enemy of truth.
I could have a guess, but...
Have a guess.
Shall I guess?
Yes.
Not Karl Marx, is it?
No.
Oh.
And it wasn't Nietzsche, as I said here.
Any other guesses then?
Any other guesses coming in to our quiz? No. Jane Hennessy gets the point. Angelo, Jane Hennessy gets the point with Albert Einstein. Supposedly said to his Swiss teacher with whom he boarded at school in 1901, complaining about a professor who would accept no criticism. If you gave someone a what for, what would you be doing? A what for? What does a what for mean? Enigma Blue is close, but Jane Hennessy gets the point with telling off, scolding, punishing someone if they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
Published first in the Saturday Evening Post in August 1843, who is the American author of The Black Cat? Who wrote the book The Black Cat? Of course, the black cat serves as a symbol of the supernatural, and it blurs the links between reality and the narrator's disturbed mind. It was not Andrew Garfield. Who wrote The Black Cat?
I feel like I'll know once I hear the answer.
In 1843. TMTB can have the point with, it's Edgar Allan Poe. But TMTB gets the point. Angelo? Yes, first one. He says Poe. Yes, TMTV, I'm getting it at a different speed. But I have to read it at my speed. It's my quiz. I read at my speed. We've had this row with people in the past.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Simon is experiencing the drama of the quiz. Because the YouTube delay, we have to work at the speed. I think Angelo has a faster computer because he's on a different internet to me here. Next question. We're getting through these fast and furiously. In which year, on the 1st of October, was the actor and star of crime films, including The Laughing Policeman, Walter Matthau, born in Manhattan's Lower East Side? What year was he born? He was a compulsive gambler, and he loved doing practical jokes.
He was a funny guy, wasn't he?
Yes, he loved a practical joke.
He was in the Odd Couple, is that right?
Yes, and the...
Walter Matthau.
Yes.
Very
so
funny.
what year was he born? It wasn't 1948. No, Ionescu. No, it wasn't 1948. But, right, have we any correct answers coming up
I have
here?
no idea.
Simon has no idea. The audience have given one answer. No, it's not 1946. Lisa, no, the lovely Lisa doesn't get it. Jane Hennessy is close with 1922, but not correct. But Enigma Blue gets the point with 1920. So a point to Enigma Blue. Now, the next question. At what maximum speed in miles per hour can a badger move? How fast can a badger move?
Miles per hour.
In miles per hour.
Gosh.
They've been protected in the UK since 1973, but they are
They're quite
considered
fast, quietly away.
Yes, well, they could be. It's not 29, and it's not 30,
that would be fast.
and it's not 22, but we're getting closer.
Less than that,
Stevie
sure.
D gets the point with 19 miles an hour.
Wow.
A badger. So there we go.
They could get around London without breaking the speed limit.
Yes, so there you go. They could actually fit in with Sadiq Khan.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Sadiq Khan
Of the speed
should like a badger.
Yeah.
Right. We'll say cheers
like
to
there's a
those
youth-
doing well.
youth
Have we got
division.
any? We've got a winner at this moment in the quiz, have we, Angelo?
Stevie D.
Stevie D is currently leading our quiz with 3 points. And we will move to the next question, which is a favourite of Queen Victoria and buried in Westminster Abbey. Which Gothic revival architect designed St Pancras Station and the Albert Memorial?
Don't know. Both
It wasn't Sir Christopher Wren, no, because he was a little earlier. He lived between 1811 and 1878.
Not very long. 60.
And he was also the leading designer of workhouses in Britain.
Goodness me. That would have kept him busy at the time.
Yes. And it wasn't Eiffel, no. Who designed the Albert Memorial and St Pancras Station? Yes, we have Stevie D with another point. George Scott, you say. I'll accept it. It's George Gilbert Scott. Okay, if you were told you were pissed up in Yorkshire, what would you be if you were pissed up in Yorkshire?
I know the answer to that, for sure.
If you were pissed up.
Surely people get that.
Of course, in America, pissed off means angry, and a piss up means going out drinking. So we accept Jane Hennessy. Oh no, Enigma Blue, sorry, got there first. Enigma Blue, Angelo, another point with drunk. Okay, approximately how many thousand languages are there in the world? How many thousand languages? There are 44% of them are endangered, with just 1,000 users remaining. 23 of them are spoken by half the world's population, but how many thousand languages are there? It's not 8,400 or 100,200. That's very specific. Right. Any thoughts?
I have absolutely no idea.
You have no idea.
I think there'll be thousands, especially in, I spent time in Africa. My wife's Rwandan. Lots of different languages in Africa.
Yes.
So many different, I think you must be in the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 or something. I don't know.
Well, you're getting closer, and Jane Hennessy is the closest thus far. TMTB is miles off with 330,000, but Jane Hennessy will give you the point. 6,000, you say. There's actually 7,159 still in use, but many of them endangered. Which band from Sunderland sang the 1988 novelty song "John Ketley is a Weatherman"?
I don't know, but I vaguely remember.
They also name-checked Michael Fish, Ayrton Senna, David Icke, Lester Piggott, and Jonathan Ross in the song.
That's a bunch of characters.
Who sang "John Ketley is the Weatherman"? Do we have any views on John Ketley as a weatherman, Angelo? It wasn't the Monster Ravy Looning Party, and it wasn't Russell Brand. It wasn't Rod Stewart, but Stevie D gets it with a Tribe of Toffs was their name.
Can't remember.
I believe they're a bit of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
What does the DS in the name Citroen Model DS stand for? I'll give you, you can have one of three options. The famous Citroen with the lights that followed the road, the classic car of the 1950s, so loved. What does DS in Citroen DS stand for?
Citroen DS. Don't know.
Nope. It doesn't mean diesel supercharged. No. DS. It doesn't mean design special, but it does mean goddess. Yes, Stevie D, you can have goddess. DS means goddess. It was also different spirit and distinctive series. It wasn't downshift and it wasn't design super up. So we don't get that. In the next question, in which rural part of Hertfordshire might you find Carter's Lane, which was formerly known as Wibbly Wobbly Lane? Which area of Hertfordshire would you find Wibbly Wobbly Lane? There was a petition in 2022 to change its name back. It's a very less than straight than average road, and people on the change.org wanted to know why they were changing the name. So anyway, where in Hertfordshire would you find it? It's not in Winstable, no. It's not in Essex. That's not in Hertfordshire. It's not in Chelsea. No, that's not in Hertfordshire. Stevie D gets another point. Stevie D is doing very well. It's near Hitchin in a place called Offley. And then we have, in which year was Dick Francis born in Lawnry, Wales? Dick Francis, the jockey turned crime writer, 40 bestsellers, and the jockey to the late Queen Mum. What year was he born? We've already had the year in another question, so it might give you a clue. What year was Dick Francis born? Do you remember? No?
No.
Stevie D gets another point.
Could have another one of those. Thank you.
And with that, we conclude our quiz for the evening. Thank you for joining in our quiz. The winner is clearly Stevie D.
Oh,
who's
gosh,
got
yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, followed by Jane Hennessy and Enigma Blue with 3 points, and Simon
well behind.
with 2, and TMTB also with 2. So thank you very much for joining in our quiz. Thank you very much for joining in our evening. It has been great to have you. I hope you've enjoyed.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Simon unfortunately doesn't have a drink, but we will do this again, and we hope you enjoy having guests on our program. Other than the late great Min, we say cheers to Min. We miss Min, and you miss all the other interrupters in my program, like Jono, who's in Australia, and all the others. So anyway, you're on your laptop and you're Googling and Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you all. We say thank you very much. Have a wonderful Christmas. Good night and good gardening. And cheers to you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, I hope we didn't.